as we
I
just.
love that you say Italiano. I mean, you say your own name without any affectation at all. Don't you want to say Italiano?
I mean, I
Eric,
think I probably
Italiano.
have enough of the New York, New Jersey voice going for me, so I feel
Oh,
like that
that's true.
probably
Hey,
that
how you doing? I'm Eric Italiano.
yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of gets the job
Oh, I
done.
got it. That's
Exactly.
good. All right, stick
Um,
with that.
German name though, so it's a little weird.
That's not true, is it?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Jesus. What?
All right. So, boys, today we've got a 20-minute slot. Is it cool if we spend the whole time talking about Glenn Close and Marisa Tomei? Because
Yes,
fantastic.
of
Just
course.
tell me about how fun those scenes were, because not only are they great, but they both seem like they're having a blast. And you guys obviously had what is one of the more bizarre 20-minute one-off kind of scenes with Tomei where she's going buck wild. So just talk to me about that day filming that scene and such.
It's
The
great.
gorilla, orangutan, her, the whole
I've
thing.
known Marissa. It really helps when you know somebody already, because if you get to set and you say, hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And then you go and you do a wacky scene like that. You don't really know, how, which way you're going to take it and all that stuff. But I've known Marissa for about 30 years here in New York, just socially. And I've done a couple small movies with her. And I've done another movie with her since our movie, Brothers. And she's just so fun and just so game for everything. And she's such a pro. She loves doing it. If she feels like she's with the right people, like we all do, we just go into it and are up for anything. And so that sort of trust that was already there between the two of us really helped. Yeah.
How about Glenn, Josh?
I don't know. There's never. She's okay.
That's funny.
Um,
She's not won yet, poor woman.
Wait. Let me go back to
Is
Marissa
it
really
about
quick.
winning though? The two guys
There was
who
a
have never won either. Is it about
what?
winning?
Well, no, of course not. But she's like famously what? She's got like 15, I think, and they
Yeah.
just keep
Yeah,
dragging her up there.
that's just wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just wanted to see what it was like working with a great actor. We've never
Yeah.
worked with great actors, so
Yeah.
and we're
Mhm.
not great actors ourselves.
Mhm.
So we wanted to be in the company of great actors. That Marissa, I will say, as producers of this thing, I remember there was a line change or something when Marissa came in. And Marissa, who I think was in character the whole time, I'm not sure because I've known Marissa for a very long time also. And she's always been just the sweetest, most ebullient person. And I said, hey, we want to change that line. And she looked at me like she was going to hurt me. And 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 then I backed off from that point on. And then when we saw the film, it's funny when somebody does a performance, it doesn't necessarily match what you see ultimately. And I just thought she's one of the best things in the film to me.
You
Her
know,
stuff with Peter, I think, is great.
you said that you guys produced this, so I'm curious, where did films like this go? I grew up in the 1990s where guys like Jim Carrey were turned into stars through this high concept leading man comedy. Where did they go? What made you want to do this type of film? I know that I read, and this is great too, that the idea came from a friend of yours, Josh, who just kept talking about how you both have huge heads. Is that true?
Yeah, it wasn't just a friend; it was several people.
Several people. So,
Several people. And I think at one point I saw it on the internet where it had like a split screen of me and Peter, and it was like some joke like,
you
same
guys,
mother,
I
same
never
father.
noticed, to be honest, but now that you
Thanks, man.
But now that
pointed out to the world, but so
Little kids notice when they walk by me, but thanks.
where did
Josh
these
Brolin.
films go?
Oh, I've heard that before. Whoa, look at the size of that guy's head, Mom.
And what do
Literally.
you say back to those
Literally.
kids?
I've heard that my whole life.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, like
what was the
blown away
question?
by the size of it. It's incredible.
I'm just curious, where do you think these films went and why you wanted to make one?
That's the kind of point of this whole thing is there's movies back then, Peter mentioned it earlier, 48 Hours or Midnight Run, and movies that were our favorites when we were younger. And we go, what happened to those movies? They were so great because there was a great balance of seriousness and kind of, what is it? I don't know, almost like slapstick, in a weird way.
Oh,
You
well, some
know?
of the pratfalls are some of the funniest things in the whole film.
Yeah.
When you get thrown into the tub, Peter, Josh, when you fall off the railing, like that stuff, I mean, it will never get old.
No, I know, and you don't get to see that very often anymore. So
Yeah.
I think with Max having seen, Palm Springs and what
Love
he
that
did
movie.
with that film, and
Yeah.
so many people have tried to copycat that Groundhog Day and weren't able to pull it off. And I thought he did something really special. So I don't know. I think we were all in the same boat of wanting to see and flash back to those movies that were so much fun way back when.
So much of comedy is tone, timing, how lines are read. How are you able to tell if something is truly funny just by going through the script? Do you see the scene playing out in your mind's eye? Do you picture how you might say it? Or do the words just make you laugh and that's that?
I think with comedy, it's partially our responsibility, but so much is in the editing, like who you choose to be, putting the camera on. Like it doesn't always. It's funnier sometimes if it's on the person listening than the person talking. And my favorite comic actors, their characters don't know they're funny. If there's a wink to the audience, then it takes me out of it. But like somebody like Alan Arkin, one of my favorite actors ever,
Yeah.
the funniest performances, but he plays it so straight and so deadpan and so sort of put upon and just tired.
Tired.
It's just so fun. It's fun when somebody just makes fun of themselves, not of other people. When you take down yourself, that's the greatest thing. And I don't know. I just aspire to sort of that caliber of of performance in a comedy, because it really is a science and it really is about timing, and how far you can push something before it breaks and it's not funny anymore. But that's what I love. I love that challenge, and it's also who you're going up against. Like Josh and I had a chemistry that you can't really sort of invent that. It just is, it's there or it isn't. And so that really helps.
There's a film that I did called Flirting with Disaster that's a similar
Great
tone, and
film.
it was David O. Russell, his second film, I think. I think he did Spanking the Monkey before that for a very small budget. And you walk in with Mary Tyler Moore, Lily Tomlin, George Segal, Richard Jenkins, who is genius in the film. And it's tonally, it's along those same lines. And I remember I had so much fun. I was such a misfit on that film. It was like you knew who everybody was. And then there was this guy, Josh Brolin, who they just gave a chance to. And we were lucky enough to bring in Brendan. We were lucky enough to bring in Glenn. We were lucky enough to bring in Marisa. So it felt similar in that way, where you're like you got a kind of a high end A+ cast that we were lucky enough to get, who just got to banter and have a blast.
Brendan, man, his energy was something else entirely. Talk to me about just like, because is that something that you could write? Like, here's the vibe of this guy. I imagine a lot of him was him just showing up, doing his own thing. So I guess I'm curious to hear your guys' feelings of how you felt when you saw what he brought to this film, because he's outrageous.
Well, he just had rapped The Whale. So I think he wanted to get something
nice
out of his system.
Yeah.
He wanted to get off that couch. You know what I'm saying?
It was a purging. It was a purging.
Yes, we were the Whale Purge.
Is that the sequel?
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I think I always like to change it up. You don't want to repeat yourself, especially back to back. And I really do think but I really do think Brendan was like all in, just physical comedy, just running around, just because he had just had that experience of that amazing film. So yeah, that's that.
And
I can't speak for Brendan. Brendan could speak more eloquently than I can about his own experience, but that's a hunch of mine.
Of course, but I like to know what you see when you're seeing something for the first time, whether you're like, wow, this guy's really bringing it, because as soon as you see him, you're like, from my point of view, at least, I'm like, this guy is stealing every moment he's on scene because he's wide-eyed, he's sweaty, he's bumbling around, and it's just like I love this performance from a guy who, Josh, I think that you were just going to say is like a sweetheart. So it's really funny to see him in this role as well. All right, if you guys will indulge me, I want to ask you about some of your own work. Old work. Josh, No Country for Old Men. This is widely considered to be a modern American classic. I'm curious, at what stage did it hit you that that was the kind of film that it was going to be, and what made you feel that way? It could be when you read the script, the night the film came out, when it won Best Picture, so on and so forth. When did that moment sort of hit you truly?
There wasn't that moment during filming. It was a really fun film to do. We actually had a really good time. Javier was miserable with the haircut and all the stuff that he was doing. He was not having a great time. But it was my son and I, my son who's 36 now, and I think was 16 or 17 at the time. And we saw it in an editing room. We saw it on a fairly, not a huge screen, but it was a big editing room, or they were color correcting it or something. And we went and watched it, just the two of us. And we didn't speak for maybe 15 minutes after we got back in the car.
Wow.
And I don't know if I've ever had that experience. I don't think that I was concerned that I was in the film or not. I think and that's an experience when you watch a film and you don't even really know you've watched yourself, because you're so bowled over by the film. And I was bowled over by that film.
Yeah. When you read the script, and then on top of that, the way that your character dies is also so totemic because of how dismissive it is. Mm-hmm. That is such a rarity. When you came across that as the actor playing that role, how did you take that on?
I loved that it was
brilliant, or fuck me.
No,
man.
I thought it was brilliant because not only was it loyal to Cormac's book, but it wasn't your, everybody goes, give us a different ending, not on this one story, but just Hollywood in general. Like, why do you have to tie everything in a perfect bow and it all ends the same way? And then the guy kisses the girl and then this and then that, you know what I mean? And then you give them a different ending and they go, what the fuck was that? And they get angry. I remember I got pulled over by a cop. I was going around, I was picking up somebody from the airport and I had made 3 rounds. And finally a cop pulled me over and he said, I'm watching you make the rounds. Like, what are you doing? And then he goes, wait a second, you're that guy from No Country. And they always mess up the name. They go, you're that guy from No Men for Old, whatever. Yeah. And then he goes, yeah, I saw that. I hated that ending. And I said, how many times did you see the film? And he said 3. I go, there you go. I think it all comes down to that.
In my rewatch this past week, I also noticed how subtly funny it could be at times as well. I've got one more quick one for you, and then Pete will swing over to you. Sugar and Alejandro from Sicario are hunting each other down. Who comes out
wins?
On top? Yeah,
Thanos does.
Now, come on. I didn't ask any Thanos stuff for you, so you can't squeeze it in here like that.
I never do, but it just belonged there. Yeah, who wins? Who do you think? I mean, he is.
I think that maybe Alejandro is probably smarter. So, that is what I would give.
I don't know. When you're death incarnate.
Yeah.
When you're the Grim Reaper incarnate.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
True. It's a tough one. Have you been asked that before?
It is a tough one. Never. That's a first one.
Cool.
Seriously,
Peter, I want to ask you about a film that I love, one of my mom's favorite films, so she'll love that I ask you about this. That is 3 Billboards. Tell me about Frances, man, because she is a force of nature in general. But in this movie specifically, I mean, she won for it, of course, one of 3, I think. I mean, and I ask this a lot. And you are one of the greats in your field, but even for you, was it tough to not just get blown off the screen? How is an actor when somebody's throwing high heat right in your face and you're like, this person is cooking? Do you step out of the way? I'm curious what you do when you encounter a performance and a performer that's operating on that scale.
No, you don't want to step out of the way. You want to go toe to toe because that's what Fran wants.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think it's like sports in that way. So please go ahead.
Yeah, no, truly, especially with somebody like her. If you get out of the way, she'll just no.
Railroad you.
I'm fortunate enough to know Fran for a long time now. My wife is old friends with her, so I got to know Fran through my wife about 20 years now. So by the time we got to make that movie, I knew her really well, which is always helpful if you know an actor beforehand. And I sort of just, yeah, it's such a perfect script. You know,
Amazing.
a lot of movies you can improvise and all of that, but he doesn't. He wants you to stick to the script, and you don't need to because his writing is so incredible and so precise, and he's worked on it for so long just to get it so exactly distilled the way he wants it to be. So that's such a joy to just sort of have it just fall back on it like Shakespeare. Um, and Fran knew that, and I knew that, and everybody involved with that movie knew that. So it made it a lot easier.
And I
Yeah,
love your role in that because you're like the sort of not the heartbeat in terms of driving the film, but the heartbeat in terms of like the moral consciousness of it. Like I think you have one of the best lines in the film when you guys are out to eat, and I forget it exactly, but you're like, I didn't force you to be here or something,
right.
and it's just beautiful film, beautiful performance. So thank you for that. I want to ask you similar to when to what I asked Josh about No Country. Thrones. At what moment does it hit you where you're like, holy shit, man, like this is different?
When you're on a t-shirt,
But when
that's,
is that? Is that season two? Like when does that
yeah, it
happen?
was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. Or when you're walking your dog and you meet up with a dog, says hello to another dog, and you ask the person what the dog's name is, and they take a moment and they go, you haven't even made eye contact with them, and they go, Tyrion, and of course it's a pug. It's not like a Great Dane or a Shepherd, it's a pug. So you're like, all right, I guess this is the zeitgeist now because a pug is named Tyrion.
That's trippy.
Yeah, I like my personal space, my privacy, but when you're on a TV show, unlike a movie, it's sort of you're in people's living rooms and you're really accessible every week, and they feel like they're very close to you, to the character rather, and therefore to you. So the boundaries are overstepped a little bit, but it all 99.9% of it's well intended. But
When
it's
you think when you think of that role in your mind's eye, what's the scene that pops up first?
probably the death of my father's character, how that all went down, because I really, really loved working with Charles Dance, who played my father, one of my favorite people.
You know, there's a trend online being like he was right the whole time. He didn't do a damn thing wrong.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It's a
People are
good.
reclaiming that character.
It speaks to the genius of that show and David and
Yeah.
Dan's writing, that you can have a lot of different interpretations of it. I love the fact that people are still in an uproar about the finale, because if I like everybody arguing about stuff. You've done something right if everybody has a different opinion.
And I've got a wrap here
You
Agreed.
don't
because
want a 50% Rotten Tomatoes. You want like a 0 or like a 99.
Or
50
I
is like, meh,
exactly.
I've got a wrap here,
who
but I'm
wants
on that
meh?
same page. It's like when something is great for 90% of the time, that's an A plus. Like I'm not gonna lose my shit over that final, percentage. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. This was a great chat. Brothers on Prime Video in select theaters October 10th, on Prime Video October 17th. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Eric.
it.